Oh honey, when I tell you this story, you better sit down. Because this time, it's not the tabloids, not the royal gossip pages, not even those so-called sources close to the palace. No, darling. This time, it's family. And when family starts talking, especially this family, you know the tea is boiling hot. So, picture this. Samantha Markle, yes, Meghan's own half-sister, finally breaks her silence. And the world? Oh, it leans in. Because when blood speaks, it doesn't whisper without a reason. Samantha claims that the image we all have of Meghan Markle, the glowing duchess, the perfect smile, the Hollywood to royalty fairy tale, is just that, a picture, a polished portrait, carefully painted to hide the cracks underneath. She says it's a version that erased people, that scrubbed away certain memories. And, most chillingly, a version that buried one old, dark secret so deep that even time itself tried to cover it up. For years, the Markle family stayed silent. They watched as Meghan went from a California girl to a royal duchess, from small screen fame to global stardom. But Samantha says behind that royal glow, behind that grace and charm, there's a past that isn't royal at all. It's painful, messy, and it's been carefully hidden for decades. And guess what? The whispers didn't come from strangers. They came from inside the family, from a cousin named Sean Johnson. Now, Sean wasn't some fame-hungry relative looking for a headline. Oh no, he came quietly, almost too quietly. Just a few words, but those words sent shivers down the spines of anyone who ever thought they knew Meghan's story. I know what she's buried. That's all he said, just that one line. And honey, that was enough to crack open a fairy tale. Before the palaces, before the royal titles, before the cameras, there was a teenage girl living in California. A girl who, according to family whispers, suddenly vanished from public life for a while. No school photos, no appearances, just gone. A blank space in her timeline. And around that same time, her mother Doria started acting different. Friends stopped visiting, the curtains stayed drawn, neighbors whispered about some kind of medical emergency that no one could ever explain. That, Samantha says, is where the story starts to turn dark, because Sean, the cousin, claims he knows exactly what happened during that missing chapter. Something so personal, so explosive that Meghan and Doria supposedly spent decades trying to bury it. He never accused her outright. He never defended her either. He just hinted, dropped words that sounded like warnings, like a man carrying a truth too heavy to tell but too dangerous to keep. When someone asked him about that period in Meghan's life, he used one single word that made everyone freeze. Entangled. Not friends, not close. Entangled. You don't just toss that word around, do you? That's not teenage drama. That's something deeper, something best left unspoken. And from that moment on, everything changed. Meghan cut ties with certain relatives, stopped visiting old family homes, avoided certain conversations. It's like she tried to lock the past away forever. But time, darling, always leaves breadcrumbs. Years later, an old photograph appeared. Meghan as a teenager, standing next to cousin Sean, her hair pulled back, her face uncertain. But what caught everyone's eye wasn't her face, it was her body. She looked different, softer, rounder, like she was carrying something the world didn't know about. When reporters shoved the picture under Sean's nose, everyone thought he'd laugh it off, that he'd say, "Oh, come on, that's ridiculous." But he didn't. He just looked at it and said calmly, "That's me standing with her." That's all. No denial, no outrage, just that. And suddenly, silence spoke louder than any scandal. That photo, frozen in time, became the clue everyone had been missing. From then on, the family couldn't ignore it anymore. Samantha began speaking out. Sean gave more interviews. And Meghan, now the Duchess of Sussex, the world watching her every blink, did the one thing that made it all feel real. She said nothing. Nothing at all. Because sometimes silence isn't peace. It's protection. Now buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you, it's the part no one was ever supposed to repeat. According to one insider, someone who swears they were there, the night Meghan's life changed forever started quietly. Just another night in California. Until it wasn't. The scene? A small, sterile room. Bright hospital lights, machines beeping, the sharp sting of antiseptic in the air, and a young girl, barely more than a child, fighting pain she wasn't ready for. A nurse whispering, "Push, breathe." A mirror held up in front of her face, forcing her to see something no girl her age should have to see. A head appearing. Stuck. Panic fills the room. Someone screams, and then, the sound. A gasp. A tiny gasping cry. Tiny gasp. The kind of sound that can break your heart and heal it at the same time. The room falls silent. No one names the girl in that story. No one names the hospital. But the people who've heard it say the description feels too real to be fiction. Too detailed. Too emotional. Too specific. After that night, things were never the same. Meghan changed. Doria changed. They grew quieter, more private. Doria became fiercely protective. Some say paranoid. Whatever happened in that room, it was never meant to leave it. But here's the thing. If it was all a lie, why did everyone who knew about it go so quiet? And if it was true, where did that baby go? When someone asked Sean where the child might be now, his answer sent chills through the entire family. He said, "Not in Colorado." That's it. Not there is no child. Not it never happened. Just, not in Colorado. Why mention a location if there's nothing to hide? From that moment on, whispers turned into full-blown theories. Some say there was a quiet adoption, maybe a family relative, maybe not. Others claim the baby was moved far away, raised under a different name, far from any royal shadows. And strangely enough, after those teenage years, Meghan's life just reset. No baby photos, no explanations, just a picture-perfect restart, as if a whole chapter of her life had been wiped clean. Samantha later said that when she heard Sean's words, "Not in Colorado," she realized it wasn't rumor anymore. It was a cover-up, a secret not just buried, but relocated. Because sometimes hiding the truth isn't about erasing someone. It's about making sure no one ever knows where to look. Then came the money, because let's be honest, secrets that deep don't stay buried for free. According to family insiders, after his interviews, Sean made a few quiet phone calls. First to Meghan, then to Doria. His message was short: "Help me out, or I'll tell everything." But they didn't answer, and that's when Sean started talking again. Not to tabloids, but to people, quietly, in whispers, one piece of the puzzle at a time. Until suddenly he was gone. No interviews, no statements, no posts, nothing. Family sources say he started receiving regular assistance. Enough to live comfortably, enough to stay quiet. Doria did it, her parents did it, and now Meghan, she just perfected it. The art of erasing the past. Meghan grew up mastering the same art that kept her family safe. Smile, stay calm, control the story. She learned early that when you can't erase the past, you rewrite it. So when her own secret began to rise, when whispers of that hidden pregnancy, that entanglement, that baby that wasn't, started spreading again, she didn't panic. She did what she'd been taught. She covered it up. Only this time, she wasn't a teenager in California. She was a global icon, a duchess, and she had the power, the fame, and the money to make sure the truth never saw daylight again. Samantha Markle calls it the silence that built her empire. Because that's what it was. A silence so perfect, so polished, it turned into power. And honey, power like that, it doesn't come cheap. The ex-husband's confession. But every perfect story has one person who ruins it. And this one came from the inside. Trevor Engelson, Meghan's first husband. Long before Prince Harry, before the royal spotlight, Trevor knew Meghan when she was just Meg. It's a generational curse. One that started long before Meghan, maybe even before Doria. Because when a family learns to hide their pain, they pass that silence down like an heirloom. Wrapped in shame, tied with guilt. And Meghan? She didn't break that chain, she just polished it. She turned silence into strategy. She turned secrecy into survival. And that's why she made it to the palace gates, smiling, flawless, untouchable. But even the finest diamonds have cracks, darling. And every crown casts a shadow. The final whisper. Maybe, just maybe, Meghan's story was never about becoming royal. Maybe it was always about escaping something. Escaping the past, the whispers, the girl who disappeared, the cousin who wouldn't stay silent. And if that's true, then every royal wave, every charity appearance, every polished photo is more than just an image. It's a shield. Because no matter how high you climb, no matter how far you run, truth has a funny way of catching up. And Samantha believes that truth is still out there waiting for its moment. Because you can buy silence, you can bury secrets, you can even disappear people, but you can't erase what really happened. Somewhere beyond all the royal glamour and California sunshine, there's still a question echoing through time. Unanswered, unclaimed, unforgettable. Where is the child? Until that question finds its answer, the world will keep wondering if the fairy tale was ever real, or just a cover story written in gold ink and sealed with silence. And maybe that's the real tragedy of it all. It's the real... Because behind the Duchess, behind the diamonds, behind the grace, there might still be a scared teenage girl who once whispered through tears, "Push, breathe." And that sound, that small gasp of life, might be the one truth that even royalty can't hide forever.